look at all that freaking metal.
Oh, look at all that.
Well, good morning, or good evening, or good whatever the heck time of day it is currently for you. This right here is my 2007 Lexus LX 470, aka a 100 series Land Cruiser, aka the greatest SUV of all time. Do I look like I just committed a crime? Yes, I sure do, because I forgot to take my gloves off. It's all good. Gloves are great for intros. Anyway, in the last episode, we did something pretty surgical on this bad boy. We replaced the water pump and timing belt, and it has been running wonderfully. This is now the next episode in the series of episodes that we are doing on this vehicle to get this thing very nicely refreshed, because it currently has almost 264,000 miles on the clock, and it is my primary vehicle, my daily driver, my tow rig, all of the above. And pressure is mounting because in just under a month, I am going to be driving this thing on a 9,000 mile round trip road trip, and this thing's got to be ready to do it. So in today's episode, we're getting weird. We tackled the engine stuff in the last episode, but right now we need to tackle some stuff with regards to the drivetrain. Thank you so much for tuning in to Funhead TV. Let's get right into it because we do not have much time. These 100 series Land Cruisers are known to be basically bulletproof reliable. Like I said, this one has almost 264,000 miles on the clock, and it runs basically like a brand new vehicle. However, it does, because it's a mechanical thing, have things that age on the vehicle. And one of the common issues, if you can call it that, because they have so few common issues, is the pinion bearings on the differential. Now, it's very understandable because this thing has over 250,000 miles on it, and bearings wear out. And in the case of this vehicle, it is no exception. We're gonna talk about the mode of failure a little bit more as we get into doing this job, but right now, we need to go ahead and lift this thing up so that we can begin removing the differential. Why are we removing the differential, you might ask? Well, there is an inner and outer pinion bearing on these differentials, well, just about any differential really, and odds are the outer one is the one that has failed because they're the most susceptible to failing. Again, we'll talk about that mode of failure in a little bit here, but we're just gonna go ahead and replace them both. And it gives us a great excuse to go ahead, take everything apart with regards to the differential, inspect it all, and see if anything else needs done while we're at it. But we're not just doing differential stuff. There's basically a series of things within the front end of this vehicle, differential to drive shafts to hub, that can cause the notorious clunk when you go from drive to reverse and back. This vehicle definitely has that clunk as well. There's a handful of things in the series of parts, like I talked about, that could cause that clunk, and we're going to replace every one of those items with the entire intention being refreshing this bad girl so that it can continue to go for the next 250,000 miles before we have to do any kind of servicing like this again. What the heck did I say earlier about shutting up because we have very little time? Yeah, okay. We need to go ahead, get this thing on the lift, and get going. Well, all right. As you can see, we've got the old Land Cruiser up in the air here. I went ahead and just took the undercovers off just so we can get better visibility on the underside. Let me go ahead and show you a little bit more closely what the ding dang ding I was just talking about with regards to the differential stuff. All right, now here we are under the vehicle facing the front of the truck. Right here is the differential in question. And as you can see here, there's definitely fluid leaking out via this pinion seal right there. That is a very common thing that happens in just about any differential. With age, the rubber kind of loses its dexterity, and then it starts to let out some of the gear oil. Once the gear oil level begins to drop, the pinion bearing is basically in the most shallow level of oil. So once that fluid level starts to drop a little, then this bearing becomes starved of oil. And then as a result, you begin to hear some whining from that differential. That has occurred in this case. I think this differential has been leaking for quite a while. In the year and a half, call it, that I've owned this vehicle, I've had to top up the differential a couple of times. So ultimately our goal in this video is to get the differential dropped, which will also require the removal of a lot of other things. So flipping around here and actually looking towards the back of the truck, here's the differential again. This is one of the culprits or potential culprits for the clunk noise. Basically, once torque gets applied to the differential, this can move one way or the other. Now I have checked with a pry bar just to see if there's excessive play in it. Of course, it is a bushing, so it's inherently going to have some movement in it. What I don't know is if it's excessive. So once we get this off, we'll be able to inspect the rubber within that bushing a little bit better and decide whether or not that needs to be replaced. I think the clunk is elsewhere, and I'll tell you about that a little bit more in a second here. Moving down the line a little bit more, looking at the CV shafts, you can see that this CV shaft, the boot, is cracked up and has been leaking fluid for some time. So therefore, this CV shaft is definitely on its way out. It's probably been making some noise and just kind of blending in with the differential noise. Needless to say, we're going to be going ahead and replacing the CV shafts while we are in there. That's actually what's in that box right over there. Also, there's several other fluids going on here. You're seeing AC dripping, but also I preemptively sprayed a lot of these bolts with PB Blaster, so if things look oily, that's why. So I have gone ahead and pulled off the beauty cover that covers up the hub normally to show you guys this. This right here is basically the hub. This is the way that the CV shaft splines onto the hub. On the inside of this right here are actual splined teeth, and this is what in essence connects your hub to the differential via the CV shaft. The splines inside of these, in addition to the splines on the CV shaft, wear. Once these splines begin to wear, you go in and out of gear and you get that little bit of play slamming from one side of the splines to the next, hence you get a clunk. So we are basically replacing everything that moves within this front end. First things first, we do need to begin by taking off the wheels and then loosening up this upper control arm so that we can start to get the CV shafts removed. Once we do that, then we can actually start working on getting this differential dropped up out of here. So let's go ahead and do it.
Many minutes later.
Well, good morning. It is yet another great day at the old Fun Ahead headquarters, where we are continuing to work on the Land Cruiser, and I've got myself a nice little fresh pot situation going on, so cheers to that.
Fresh pot!
I love coffee. So I made some progress off camera, as you can see. All very unexciting things, all just taking stuff apart. If you've ever done suspension work before, you know that it's just a lot of muscling around and it's pretty slow moving, especially on higher mileage vehicles. Everything just likes to be in their home spot and it doesn't want to be taken apart. Hence, my persuasion station sitting right over here. But let me show you where I'm at. So again, as you can see, things are fairly well taken apart just on the driver's side. But sitting over here, as you can see, you have the hub assembly with the wheel bearings. This is the piece that I was talking about previously, the splined piece that splines into the CV shaft, as you can see. And walking over to the other side of the shop, here we have the spindle. This end of the CV shaft is quite long. Here are those splines I was talking about that go into the other end of that hub. And so getting it up and out of this here requires a lot of space, more space than the compression of the CV shaft can allow for. So I just decided it was actually easiest to just remove the spindle entirely. I didn't really want to do that. I was trying to avoid doing that, but in the end, it took me maybe an extra 20 minutes. So it is what it is. Now though, we do have that CV shaft out. We just need to go ahead and do the other side, and then we will be ready to start removing the hardware that holds in the differential. So I'm gonna go ahead and take apart the other side really quick, and we'll pick up once it's time to drop out that differential. Well, here we are. Maybe, I don't know, half hour later, not quite a half hour later, we have the other spindle hub assembly on the ground over here. Other CV shaft is removed. So we are officially in the clear for being able to drop that front differential. I also went ahead and pulled the fluid out of the differential really quickly. On a slightly concerning note, however, the magnet on the drain plug of the differential had a lot of metal on it. I changed out that fluid not that long ago. It was about a year and a half ago, right after I bought this vehicle. So in a matter of, I don't know, what would that be? 15-ish thousand miles, it shed quite a bit of metal onto the magnet. Actually, which reminds me, let's go ahead and take a quick look at that fluid. It's sitting right over here. All right, so this was a cleanish drain pan. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, shoot. Oh, look at all that freaking metal. This drain pan wasn't completely clean, but it didn't have that in it. That's for sure.
Oh, look at all that. Oh no.
Well, we've got metal and a decent bit of it. That has me kind of concerned as to what we're gonna find when we actually get this differential out and opened up. The whining sound from that diff has definitely been getting progressively worse in the last, call it 5,000 miles, and it has always whined since I've had the vehicle. And actually when I did the first fluid change right after buying it, there was quite a bit of metal on that magnet for the drain plug then, but I just kind of figured, well, there's always some level of metal on diff drain plugs just because service life for those fluids is a long time. Maybe that's bearing race, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that that's actually gear material. So we might be replacing gears too. Shoot, I was not planning to do that, but it's a very strong possibility at this point. So let's go ahead and start getting that differential out of there because we need to see what's going on. I took off this little cross member. That brace right there actually is one of the 3 mounting points for the front differential. This is where that cross brace went, this side to this side, and then this is what mounts to that little bracket on the cross brace. Here's our differential. The 2 remaining mounting points for this thing are here in the back, and then there's 1 point at the front right there. Anyway, all right, I need to stop talking. I need to start strategizing and think about how I want to do this. Okay, let's get to it. Party time. There she is, folks. There she is. I am super anxious and honestly pretty nervous to see what is on the inside of this thing. Who knows what kind of secrets lie beneath? Why did I just say that? I don't know. Your boy just realized that I forgot to order the pinion seal. The one freaking seal that has caused this entire differential to get as bad as it is. I love when I forget to do things like that. Am I losing my mind? Yep. All right, it is now time to zap off these 14mm bolts, get this cover plate off, and just see what we've got underneath. Man, that is on there. Did I miss a bolt? No, I didn't miss a bolt. There was one more super sneaky bolt on the back side of the differential. Oops, I'm glad I did not break anything. Let's go ahead and take a look at our differential really quickly and see what we can see. All right, now looking in there, and I don't want to speak too soon here. The teeth on the ring gear look decent. I'm not an expert at differential analysis here, but they don't look that hateful. What I don't know is if the pinion gear back there is looking okay. I can't really see it that well, but we're gonna have to get a light up in there and see. Oh man, but I feel like as I'm turning this, I can just feel that bearing in the front. So my hope is that that is the actual culprit because it just feels crunchy as I'm turning it. That's not how it's supposed to feel. So hopefully these gears are actually truly okay, and we won't have to replace that ring gear, at least not in the foreseeable future. Yeah, because I was so worried that we're going to get that apart and just see like little pitting in the ring gear and the pinion gear, but so far so good. It also does look like someone's been in here before. I'm guessing that this sealant is not original factory sealant. My guess is that what happened was they replaced the pinion seal and the pinion bearings, inner and outer probably, and then the pinion seal either wasn't installed right or it just aged out again, because keep in mind this car does have 264,000 miles on it. And then from there, the pinion bearings life is very limited if that leak goes unnoticed, because of course, like I said, once that level drops, that outer pinion bearing is the first one to get deprived of oil. It starts to get, you know, kind of roached, and then next thing you know, it's too far gone, even if you add fluid. Check it out, everybody.
We just made pretty dang good progress within that last time lapse, I would say. Feels pretty good. I did just go ahead and take the pinion shaft nut off, but before we go ahead and pull this pinion flange, I do want to go ahead and show you guys something. Actually, you could probably see it right there in the way I turned it. This is truly just crunchy. Here, let me get my mic on this really quick. Watch this. Could you guys hear that? I hope you could. If you couldn't, just know it does not spin nicely. There is definitely some serious crunch up in there, As far as the these bearings go, these things look and feel pretty solid, and then here are the outer races for each of them. I mean, sure, they've been used for a while, but I'm sure they're not original, so we may just go ahead and continue running those. I don't know, it might be worth doing it now, but also they look fine. So I'm halfway inclined to just leave well enough alone and just let this continue to run, considering these bearings are always immersed in oil. Looking in here, we can see the pinion gear a little bit better. Same story here, though. I mean, nothing looks weird on it. So we've got it mostly torn down. It is now time to go ahead and pull this flange, which I think will, in fact, need a gear puller. And then I think from there, this entire shaft just slides out. We just got the pinion shaft unit thing. What is this called? Drop it in the comments. I can't even think of words right now. Anyway, I just got that out. That took more wrestling than I thought. Let me explain. So here is the outer pinion bearing. This is the inner one. Look how freaking beefcake this bearing is, bro. That is a unit. So this sets in to the differential just like this. This end comes out, sticks out right here. This bearing sets over the shaft right here. There's the outer race for it. What I didn't realize is that that bearing right there is actually pressed onto that shaft. So I was expecting this to just fall out once I took off this outer nut, but it didn't do that. So I finally decided hit it with the map gas real quick and put it back in the press. Then it started to budge. But I was like, am I missing like a circlip or something, or a bolt? Because this is my first time taking apart one of these differentials. I very much don't know what I don't know, so I'm proceeding with extreme caution. And I just did not want to be putting 20 tons of pressure into that shaft if something was still holding it in place. You can break a lot of stuff when you do that. But anyway, all of that to say, we found the problem! Let's take a look at our outer pinion bearing really quickly. So this is probably still super hot, so pardon me. Let's look at this freaking bearing. Look how pitted that is. Get pitted, so pitted.
Get pitted, so pitted.
Every single one of these has like deep pits, and a couple of them are like so screwed up. Okay, here's a good example. There's like a straight up gouge out of that bearing right there. Look at that. As that was rolling along, you know that thing was making heavy noise. Oh man, and the other half of it has a big gouge too. Oh my gosh, here's one. Look at this. Man, this didn't even want to turn to get it to like where I could show you. Look how freaking pitted that is. Bah! Oh my gosh. So every single one of these is pitted to some extent, but some of them have some seriously deep gouges in them. Holy cow. But as I was like looking down in there when the bearing was still setting in there, I could just see like metal fragments, you know, because of course I'm seeing it from this angle. I could just see metal fragments like sitting on top of this. In fact, I think that's one right there. Let's turn this thing up really quick and see if the outer race shows any damage. I'm sure it does. So it's going to be hard to see because it's somewhat of a reflective surface, but you can see here that there's definitely pitting in that outer race there. It should be perfectly smooth. Those are actual chips, not just like debris sitting on the outer race. Yeah, so that was my whining noise, and that explains why it was just progressively getting worse and worse. So you might be wondering, what caused this amount of carnage? Well, the motive failure here is simply that the pinion seal on the end of this differential was leaking. Someone didn't notice it for quite a long time. The fluid level dropped, and it's really like this bearing probably sits in like that much fluid. So if it drops really at all, then it just becomes starved of oil, and it doesn't take long before this thing is completely just shot. Fortunately, in our case, this was the sole issue. I was so worried when we started the day today that we were gonna find that our ring gear and pinion gear were also bad and pitted. I believe these bearings, the carrier bearings, are fine as well, so we'll continue to run those. So we're exactly at the halfway point with everything being torn down. In the next episode on the differential, we'll get everything put back together and back up in the vehicle and take it for its very first drive with our brand new inner and outer pinion bearings. I do, however, need to order some parts that I missed along the way, including the freaking pinion seal that was the cause of this entire problem. I somehow failed to order that as well. Nonetheless, I don't have it, and we're gonna be waiting on parts for at least the next few days. But we've gotta be efficient with our time because the clock is ticking. In just a few weeks, we leave to take this vehicle on a 9,000 mile road trip, and right now, it doesn't look like it's gonna be driving very far at all. We gotta get to getting and get this thing done. So, thank you all so much for tuning in to Fun Ahead TV. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here today. If you did enjoy this video, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It helps out my channel immensely, and I appreciate you very, very much. And please subscribe while you're at it. If you wanna see even more sweet Land Cruiser content, whatever kind of vehicle we're working on at the moment, we always have fun, so please subscribe to see even more Fun Ahead TV content coming to you every single week. Thank you all again so much for being here and tuning into Fun Ahead TV today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Yes, I'm looking right at you, and I will see you all in the next episode. See ya. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see even more great Fun Ahead TV content, please click the link right here. I'll see you over there.
You serious?